Albert AWOL, the voice of the jungle, broadcasting on the DVC to all points unknown. If you're within the sound of my voice, you're listening to Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Hello and welcome home. Thank you for joining us on episode 245 of Welcome Home, a Disney Parks and Vacation Club podcast. I'm Tom, I'm here with Trevor and special guest host Brian, our old friend, I would say. Brian, you've been on our show. I've been on yours. I don't know if anybody else on the show has been on yours, but I've been on your show. But Brian's the one half of the DCL Duo, right? That you do with your wife.
Right. That's right. Yeah, we are the DCL Duo. We are big Disney Cruise Line fans. We just hit Pearl status on Disney Cruise Line and only started.
Is that the highest status you can get as Pearl?
It is 25 plus cruises since 2018. January 2018 was our first cruise. Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah.
That's
we are now
cruises.
We're pumping the brakes. We're pumping the brakes a little bit. now that we got there, and we're actually branching out to try a few other cruise lines this upcoming year, and we'll be covering on our show here in the next couple of weeks. We're taking our first Adventures by Disney. We're headed over to Europe to do a river cruise with Adventures by Disney. So yeah.
Oh, nice. That'll be awesome. Yeah, I marvel at the amount of content you guys put out.
It has it has gone from hobby to part-time job, yeah, but it's fun. We love chatting with Disney Cruise Line fans actually all over the world. We recorded this morning with someone from the UK, and I was talking to someone in Australia yesterday about their experience with Disney Cruise Line Down Under, and so yeah, we love chatting Disney Cruise Line with just about anyone who wants to talk about it.
Yeah, it was funny, Trevor, because I reached out to Brian, and we had been talking about having him on for a little bit here, and early November we skipped a couple shows because we had some stuff going on, and so I just reached back out to him, and he's like, I'm not super up on park stuff. I guess you've been focused completely on cruise stuff, right? So
yeah, we primarily, well, I would say we 100% cover Disney Cruise Line. We do some shows on Adventures by Disney. The tagline for our podcast is kind of cruising elevated. So we try to focus on some of the higher end experiences on Disney Cruise Line at times to give folks kind of voyeuristic, like what's going on in those experiences. But yeah, we have hit our niche and we're sticking with it. Disney Cruise Line kind of all the way, and occasional forays into Adventures by Disney. And then some shows that we do comparing other cruise lines to Disney Cruise Line. So folks who've sailed on both come on and talk to us about what the other experiences are like out there.
Nice. Trevor, were you gonna say something? I'm sorry.
No. I guess the hard part for me is that I don't know anything about Disney Cruise Lines because we've talked about it before that we're not going to do a cruise, but you made the point. It is very interesting that you get to share all this stuff that you do because for people like me that will probably never get on a cruise, I do occasionally like to go and look and see like, what's up with this ship, or where they're going on this cruise and stuff like that. So yeah, it is interesting that that there is so much stuff to talk about with cruise line that I feel like it doesn't get as much visibility, or maybe this is just me and how the algorithms work on the internet. But it feels like there's not enough people talking about it, which like you say, it works in really well for you. That there is this niche that you can fit into.
Like two of you, right? There's like two main DCL podcasts. It's you and why am I forgetting his name? He's been on our show too.
Steve, probably Steve. Or there's a growing list of them. I'd say the three biggest ones are our podcast, Steve Creasy over at the DCL podcast, who has been is a friend and mentor of ours, and then a guy named Wes who does the DCL Dude podcast, and he's been around for a long time as well. So there's three of them. There's some new entrants. The guys over at Rope Drop Radio who cover the parks have a podcast now called Rope Drop on Deck, kind of covering cruising. So yeah, so it's a fun little community to be a part of, and we're all friendly with each other and kind of share tips and tricks and verify things in the background that are going on. So yeah, and I was gonna say, Trevor, to your point, we actually had a listener write in about 6 months ago now, or maybe a year. She has a medical condition that, she just will never be able to cruise, but loves Disney, and she listens to our show because she loves to live vicariously and hear what it's like to sail on a cruise because she can't go herself. So there you go.
There you go. Yeah. Well, I mean, we were talking a little bit about the show or before the show, and we talked about this weeks ago when it was released. But like, I so badly want to go on that new ship and go in the 20,000 Leagues room. I want to go in the Haunted Mansion room. I want to go to all these places on that new ship. Like, we're scheduled to do a trip in 2025. And I really would like to check that one out if that ship is sailing by the time we go, which I think it is, right? I think that ship's going to be launched.
It'll be out. Yeah. We're on the maiden voyage, which is over Christmas this upcoming year, 2024. So she will be out and sailing for the 2025 season. And yeah, I am beyond excited to see the 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea bar. Yeah, I am. That's the first time Disney will have themed the pub space something other than a British pub. So I'm really interested to see what they do with that. And yeah, super excited. They have a Haunted Mansion, the Skipper bar on board. I will just say this. Yeah. I will say this: these ships have been super divisive, and they've demoed a lot, or previewed a lot of experiences even on the Wish that then when they executed on them did not live up to kind of the previews they gave. So we're just all of us Disney Cruise Line fans out here are kind of fingers crossed that they fully execute on these experiences that they've been showing off coming up, because I think that will make or break some of these bar spaces and restaurants and things like that.
So I'm assuming you've been on the Wish, Brian. I've seen mixed things about the Wish. Are you on the side of liking that? Because I've seen a couple people say it was one and done for them, which I was surprised by, because everything I've seen about it looks amazing. But I'm also not a Disney Cruise Line expert, so like Trevor. So
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so we did a live show with another content creator, and our show is titled "In Defense of the Wish," I think, because we actually really like the Wish. I mean, I hear there is a lot of vitriol out in the community. There's people we've talked to who've sailed Disney Cruise Line for since the Magic came out in 1996, I think it was, who are like, I will never set foot on that ship. I've never been on that ship. I don't want to be on that ship. That sort of thing. And I hear that. I will tell them they should all realize that their love affair with Disney Cruise Line has an expiration date then, because Disney's not going to build ships that look like the old ships anytime soon. They're following the industry trend of bigger and bigger. But we love the Wish. The Kids Club on the Wish, one of the best, the best kids club in the Disney fleet, like hands down. Our son, if we went on one of the other ships, he'd go in the kids club for a while and be like, take me out. And we put him on the Wish. And he's like, can I stay like another hour? Is that okay? And we're like, have at it, my friend.
Stay all day.
Yeah. There are some fair criticisms of the Wish. I think storage in the staterooms is a real problem. And if they don't fix that for the Treasure, it's going to be even more of a problem, because the Treasure is going to be doing longer sailings. The pool deck people complain about a lot. I don't think the main pool area is bad. I think it's great. I actually like the tiered setup. I think there are some challenges that they're having with folks with mobility issues. But otherwise, I think it does a really nice job of breaking up the crowds. The biggest complaint that a lot of folks have is that the adult pool area is awful. And I share their complaint, and they have not fixed that on the Treasure. It's very small. It's very remote. It's tucked away. It gets full quickly. So you're not getting,
bigger areas for adult.
They needed a bigger area, but unfortunately, in the way ships are designed, they're kind of locked into a design strategy for this, for these Triton class or Wish class ships. And so we don't see it changing. A lot of people have complained about the fact on most of the ships, there's a continuous promenade deck on deck 3 or 4. I get it confused. On the Wish, there isn't. It's you can walk back and forth on that deck, and then up a set of stairs for a brief period to another deck, and then up a set of stairs to go all the way out the front of the ship. But it doesn't take you back to the ship, so you can't run around the outside of the ship, which a lot of people missed. But gotcha. That's not changing. Mm-hmm. But I think the trade-offs are, a lot of really interesting and fun spaces on board, a grand atrium that's sort of unrivaled in the other ships, just beautiful decor and lots of really interesting guest experiences. So we really like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting to me how polarizing that one has been, because I've seen people say that they don't like it, and I was like, oh, that's surprising to me.
well, there's a new ship coming that's even more polarizing, which is the Disney Adventure, and so if people don't like the Wish and the Treasure, the Adventure is deeply polarizing in the community right now, because that's the ship that Chapek picked up out of bankruptcy, essentially.
We talked about that one a few months ago.
Yeah, they got it for. Well, it's interesting. They got it for a steal, but if you hear the amount of money that they're probably going to have to put into it to retrofit it for Disney, I sometimes wonder, like, did they really get a bargain on this thing? So,
why do people care about that though? It's not even going to be in the States, right? Sorry, Trevor.
Yeah, I think there's hope that they will get it over here at some point. I don't think that they will. I think it will be designed specifically for that Asian market. But if you look at the renderings, I think people are reacting to Disney has a look and feel to its ships that are very unique and brand oriented, and there's a brand language to the ships. This one feels more like, well, let's just kind of slap the brand on like a Carnival Cruise Line ship, and it doesn't sit well with people. One of the big design choices is in the original renderings they had 6 funnels on the top of the ship, so two pairs, 3 down the line of the ship. They've now reduced it to 4, but still four funnels. It just looks weird. So
yeah, what were you going to say, Trevor? I'm sorry.
I was going to say I get the feeling that them buying that ship, it was one of those. Chapek bought it because it looks good on paper that, hey, we saved cost on manufacturing because we got the ship for cheap, ignoring the fact that, it's going to take a lot of money to retrofit it. Yeah. Because that's next quarter, right? Nobody cares about that.
That's the next quarter problem.
but the funny thing is that as you were talking about, I realized that they kind of did the same thing with Pixar Pier, or Paradise Pier Hotel, sorry.
Brian, you're a Disneyland guy, right? Because you're West Coast, so you're a Disneyland guy.
Yeah, and I'm sure you stayed at Paradise Pier, right? Like or before it got redone.
We have not stayed there. We have only stayed at the Grand Cal and the Disneyland Hotel when we've gone down.
Oh, you're lucky. Because we did have one stay at Paradise Pier, and it was exactly that. Because it was a hotel owned by a Japanese company. And you could tell where it like the way that the elevators were designed, the rooms, everything, you could see where Disney tried to fit in the Disney feel, but it didn't feel right because it didn't feel like every other Disney property. And it that actually really turned us off of we never wanted to go back there again because it was just not a good experience. And, for them to do an entire ship in that same vein, I don't know how well that's gonna go over either.
But I mean, the fact that they're not bringing it to the States tells me that they're trying to just be like, well, maybe that market won't care.
I mean that's a gamble still, because they're the Asian market cares just as much as we do about Disney.
Well, we've heard we've heard through the sort of the grapevine out there that the Disney Cruise Line folks were not happy with this decision, but it was sort of forced on them. But the other thing there's a big debate in the community around, so this is a ship that's sailing in the Asian market. Those cruise lines typically build ships specifically for that market. And there's some cultural, differences, like folks sailing out of Asia expect there to be a casino on board. We're hearing that Disney probably won't do that. They may not have a casino on this ship, or we're hearing more than likely than not, they won't. And so, I don't know, it's an interesting time right now. Disney's really expanding its reach. They've always sailed in Europe, right? But now they're starting to expand into Asia with these cruises coming out of, Australia and New Zealand, ship permanently ported in Singapore. I think there's some in the community who are looking like, oh, so this is my opportunity as an American to go over and experience these places. But when you start to look at the itineraries and the setups of the ship, that's not, they're really catering to the folks in those markets, not to us here in the States. So
not to American tourists. Yeah.
That's you piqued my interest on what a Disney casino would look like now. After you mentioned that.
And I will say this: there is a zero chance that you see Mickey Mouse in a Disney. That's the thing, is it can't be like Donald Duck slot machines and stuff like that, because that would just degrade.
But it'd be Scrooge McDuck though. It would have to be Scrooge, right?
It would be villains. It like villains, like a big Chernabog over top of the slot machines.
Or I'm just taking my money.
I feel like you'd have to have at least a couple blackjack dealers dressed like Gaston. Dr.
Facilier is the cooler of the table.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
there you go. I was just imagining some sort of.
This is a horrible thought. process that we're going through now.
I love this idea. I'm all about it. Let's do it. Yeah, they would never do that. I mean, Chapek might have done it, but I feel like Iger wouldn't. But, you know. Anyway, so I'm glad we got to talk about cruises a little bit, because I know this is, your expertise. Not that parks and DVC are not your expertise, but
I expressly disclaim any expertise in parks and DVC. We go a lot, so we know more than the average person. But yeah, we always tell folks on our show, if you want information and news about parks or other topics for Disney, we are not your source. So,
well, that's okay.
We're not experts either. We just kind of figure it out as we go. So
we strive to be as accurate as we can, but it's always with a grain of salt, because sometimes we do say wrong things, but that's okay. But yeah, and I'm definitely before. I have not been on a Disney cruise yet. It is a Disney blind spot for me, and but we are planning on doing it. My daughter's only 5, right? And so we're waiting till she gets a little bit older, just because they're so expensive, and we want her to appreciate it, of course. So we're going in 2025 for sure. So I'm definitely going to come your way for advice when the time comes. So
yes, I should have asked you both just really fast, as I'm curious. And again, I think I mentioned off air, I'm behind in my backlog of shows. But did you all experience the first ship that Disney has ever decommissioned, which is the Halcyon? I will just say we went on that. It was one of our most amazing Disney experiences ever. So yeah.
So that's good. Yeah. So you got to do the Star Cruiser. You did it right at the end too, right? Or you didn't you do it before it closed? Yeah,
we did it right before it closed. We got off the experience, and my wife, who is one of the most, I love her. She's one of the most frugal people. And she said that was worth every penny. And as we were in the pool at the Riviera, like the day we disembarked, she's like, let's see if we can find another date to get back on. That experience was so amazing. So I'm really sad it's gone. I'm sitting here surrounded by Halcyon memorabilia. Actually, I kind of went all in on that. But yeah, it was an amazing experience. I think it even outrivaled Disney Cruise Line, if I'm honest about it.
Wow. I mean, I've heard that, right? Like I heard all the reviews that it was incredible. It's just like, I mean, it seemed like it was always destined though to like just not make it because of how small it was, and I don't know.
Yeah, it's not sustainable, right? That's the only problem.
Yeah.
The comment I loved the most as they closed it was someone said, look, a company can be true to kind of profits, but a company can also be true to its brand mission. And companies sometimes make decisions in furtherance of their mission. And if Disney's mission is experiences that delight and bring magical moments and all of this sort of stuff, the Halcyon had that in spades. And so I think there was an opportunity for them to sort of step back and say, like, this is an experience that may not make money quarter over quarter, but it's a place where we can test new ideas, we can use new technologies in a small and controlled way, and offer guests kind of an experience that they're just not going to get anywhere else. But obviously, that was not the decision of the day under the leadership of Chapek. So here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are.
It is unfortunate. I do think it's cool that they actually did it and they tried something like that, because it was it was a big swing they took. I mean, that's a huge swing that they took. They essentially invented a new category of hotel. I mean, that didn't really exist before. And so to take that kind of swing, and you also have the problem too, though, just of, you have Star Wars fandom, but it is limited, right? Like eventually you're going to run out of Star Wars fans. And of course, it was so expensive that you have Star Wars fans, and then of those Star Wars fans who can afford to do it, right? So it's population's almost a little limited, but
I mean, I will just say this. Last thing I'll say on it is I think it was a failure of marketing on Disney's part, because one of the things they did that was really nice is it's more like 48 hours of dinner theater. That's what it's like with a Star Wars theme. And when you got on board, they would tell you, like, you don't need to know anything about Star Wars, right? Like this is like, yes, this fits in the canon somewhere, but it's not like you have to get everything right. And
interesting.
When we got on board, we had a blast end to end, and there were lots of people who had done it who we're casual Star Wars fans. I should say that. Yeah, that's what we are. We're like, I enjoy the movies. I don't read the books. I haven't kept up to date with all the various TV
I'm the
shows.
same as you, Brian. I'm completely casual. I like it, but I'm not obsessed.
I've dipped out of Star Wars fandom because it just got to be too much. Like,
I mean, I'll just say that our favorite, like, if they had marketed it as an experience, I think it got a moniker as a Star Wars hotel, and that's where it just completely started to fall apart. But like, I'll just give you the one anecdote I had off of the sailing that was amazing. We were sitting at dinner. We were a party of 3, so there's an empty chair at our foretop, and they have these characters, and one of the characters is a first order, lieutenant who's kind of, the villain of the cruise. And we're all having dinner in the main dining room, and one of the characters is giving her big concerts or whatever. And this, villain character kind of comes in because he's actually a fan of her music and whatnot, and is watching. And he's wandering through the dining room, and he sits down at our table. He just sits down at our table, and the server comes over, and she's like, "Oh, Lieutenant Croy, let me bring you a plate in a place setting." And he's like, "No, I won't be eating. I only eat my power bars that weren't brought on the ship, right?" Kind of thing, or whatever it was. And he's sitting there, he's kind of dancing to the music a little bit in his chair, talking to my wife, asking questions of my son. He sat with us for 30 minutes at our table, just the 3 of us. And I looked at that when we got up from dinner. I was like, in what other place at Disney would a character sit with you for a half hour and give you that experience?
Right. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. That's totally true. Yeah.
So anyway,
well, we got to talk about the big DVC news, and that Trevor has mixed feelings about. And I'm actually surprised at the polarizing nature of the opinions of this. It did seem like more people were in favor than against. But so the annual HOA, the association meeting was just a couple days ago now. And as part of that, they have somebody asked, I guess, whether the new Polynesian Tower will be part of the existing condo association or it will be a new condo association, which we've talked about on the show many times, right? We've asked DVC Resale Market what they think is going to happen. And it was confirmed that the tower will be part of the existing association. So, I mean, Trevor, I know that you're a huge poly guy, right? But like, I feel like this is a benefit to you, right? Like the value of your contract just like went up, like to me.
Yeah, it did. But that's only if I'm planning to resell my contract.
Well, yeah, you're not going to. Yeah, no. Yeah. But if you had to, though, your contract's more valuable now, right? I mean,
it's true.
And you have more flexibility. You can stay in a bigger room if you want now.
But I don't need to. That's so yeah. This is the whole problem that I have with this, and yeah, unfortunately, I'm great. It's great that it is there, and you're right. I don't mind the fact that there are options now. I think at the most, in the future, I may look at a 1-bedroom, but my family's small. We only need the studios. Like, we don't need to go up to a bigger room, right?
As your son gets older, though, it might be nice to have that separate bedroom, don't you think? Like,
but I mean, we've traveled enough, and the way the poly studios are set up, they've got like the 1.5 bathrooms. So like, we have, there's enough space in the studios that, like, I get what you're saying about, having, private space and all that, but we, as a family, like, we can make use of the studio as it is. The thing that I don't like, or my couple of concerns around this are, there's obviously going to be a bunch of people, I've already seen, people are buying up poly contracts because they know that they're going to be, they're going to be able to capitalize on this, on the new tower and everything.
Yeah.
I'm worried that it'll potentially make it harder for me to get a studio because of it, because, there will be more people competing for that. I'm also wondering what this is going to do to the dues for the poly when it's done.
That's a good question. Yeah, that is a good question.
So I'm not against it. And this is where my mixed feelings come in, is that, I'm like, yeah, it's good that they're giving more options to the poly, because it did definitely need it. I agree that, we were missing the 1-bedrooms and the 2-bedrooms. But I'm worried what the what impact that's going to have, like, for stuff, like I said, the dues and stuff, because, like, for me, I found that nice space where, like, the poly, I have enough points. I know what to expect from it, and this is kind of shaking it up a little bit, right? So we'll have to wait and see.
Do you think the addition of, so I see in the notes here that they're adding, like, the Duo studio concept from, or Tower studio concept into the new tower at Poly. I wonder if that helps you, Trevor, because those are high competition rooms at Disneyland and the Riviera, right? And I wonder if your competition, like, there's people who would otherwise book studios who are now going to be going after those rooms instead, and so you might have a little window of opportunity for better studio availability. I don't know.
I also think there's point.
There'll be a shine on the new building for a while, though, too, right? So people are going to want to stay at the new building and not at the old buildings, right? Like you're going to get a lot of that too, I feel like.
Yeah, I guess that's good too, because people don't know the secret of Moorea, that it's like it's the best building because of how close it is to the TTC. But people don't think about stuff like that. They're like, oh, I want to stay at the Poly, and I want to stay over here, and it's like, yeah, that's great, but it's on like the other side, and to get around, you're either walking over to the Grand Floridian to get on the monorail, or you're walking all the way back through the Poly, which doesn't sound bad, except that when you've done a whole day in any of the parks and you just want to get back to your room, that extra, mile. Sorry, I almost said kilometer. I know. Sorry, but that extra, those extra, 2 kilometers of walking, 6 miles, whatever. You don't want that, right? So
that's fair.
But you're right. It is going to be the new shiny thing for a while. But like I said, I'm just thinking like I'm always looking like way far into the future how that could impact me, and the immediate impact's not going to be there. But I wonder what it's going to look like in 3 to 5 years with our Poly contract, right?
I will tell you, when we were just there, right, for the one day, I went by it on the monorail, and that building is big, man. It was way bigger than I thought it was going to be. It's tall. Like I could see it from Magic Kingdom. Like we could see it from places in Magic Kingdom. It's a pretty big building. So I'm almost wondering, because I know you like your lake view. Like there's probably going to be some really nice lake view rooms in there where you get an even better view, because you only have 2 floors 2 floors or 3 floors?
It's 3 floors.
It's 3. Okay. Yeah. So you're talking, you can get much higher. You can even get a better view from up there if you wanted to. I mean,
I guess.
But I just wanted to pull up really quickly here. So in November, the average resale price of a Poly contract was $148, according to a DVC resale market. I just popped up their current listings. They've got one going for $163, one going for $171, $170, $170, $170, $180. So I don't know if it's already had an effect on prices, or if these are just people that are shooting for the stars price wise.
I feel like the prices have been just gradually climbing over months.
Oh yeah, I agree. Yeah,
people have been kind of like hedging their bets that this was going to get rolled into the current Poly contracts.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Are they Brian, adding a restaurant in this tower? Because like the one thing that would concern me about this setup. Yeah. Okay, that's good, because they did not do that with the Disneyland tower, and I think it's just a super bad decision because you're oversubscribing the restaurants there at the Disneyland Hotel even more than they already are, right? And so that would be my concern, is if you're adding capacity without adding more food space and things like that, then Ohana is going to be a nightmare, right? So
Well, Brian, I meant to ask you, and I should have done this my due diligence on the show here. Where you guys own at? Because I know you own a couple contracts, right?
Right. Yeah. So we bought, our first contract was at the Grand Cal as a resale contract that we bought. And then we immediately used our status as members, which I know they've changed now, to get some discounts on buying at Riviera. So we own it Grand Cal, Riviera. We recently purchased a contract at the Villas at Disneyland Hotel. Nice. And we have a fixed week contract for week 52 out at Aulani. So
nice.
Oh, wow.
So where do you guys usually stay when you go to Disney World? Like, where's your resort to go to there?
I'm proud to say the fan choice #1 Riviera this year, apparently. So I just saw the other day someone said that DVC did a fans choice best DVC resort, and it was Riviera. So
really?
Yeah, we stay at Riviera almost exclusively. We love that. We bought it very intentionally because we love the EPCOT area resorts and parks. So yeah.
I mean, you can't beat that dedicated Skyliner station. I love the Skyliner. It's like my favorite form of transportation at Disney, and to have that dedicated station there is so nice.
Well, and so the two things we love that Skyliner. We love the just the atmosphere of the resort, the music and such. Yeah. It's in the resort.
Yeah.
And the rooms are just gorgeous. Like our son has said at several points, like, I wish we could just live here. And it's like, thank you for that. I mean, we
just keep buying contracts. Eventually you can.
Yeah, there you go.
So, yeah. But yeah, no, listen, I understand your mixed feelings on this, Trevor. I get it. Cause like you, it almost felt like Poly was like not like a hidden, like secret of yours, it's obviously not, but it's a lot of people don't look at Poly, I feel like, and this is going to put a lot of attention on Poly.
It's funny because I feel like Poly kind of gets overshadowed by the Grand Floridian, but then Poly's in that weird space where it's like, oh, it's a premium resort, but if I'm going to go premium, I'll go for the Contemporary or the Grand Floridian, right? Like that's what I feel. I don't know if that's how everybody feels, but it seems to me like a lot of people have that mentality. And that's kind of why I liked it, is like you said, it's not a secret, but it's like, it's not in the spotlight.
It's a hidden gem.
That makes it, to me, that's what I love seeing at Disney, is like, you can find like something off to the side that people don't know about. Like it's not like a hidden, like you'll never find it, but it's the uncommon thing, I guess, that people don't consider, right? So
yeah, and so our friends over at DVC Resale Market have said that with this announcement that they're saying that they could see demand for Polynesian contracts surge, potentially driving average prices upwards towards $160 per point or higher, which right now, like I said, the last month it was 148. The last time it was 160 was November 22. So, just about a year ago it was at 160. So, I mean, it's not all that far off from where it was, but it is going to be interesting.
I wonder how that's going to affect right of first refusal as well. Like this will be an interesting conversation, I think, with Derek in a couple of months as to how much Disney's buying back contracts, because I would assume that they're going to want to, they're going to be offering up new contracts, right? So people are going to be able to buy direct to the Poly again, which that's a whole, like I said, there's a lot to this. It's really more complicated than I initially thought.
Have they said anything about, I assume there's not going to be resale restrictions on the new tower, especially since it's part of the contract.
Yeah, since it's part of the since it's part of the existing association, there won't be the resale restrictions. So, which I think is the biggest benefit of this, right?
Yeah, it's going to make it really attractive to people looking to get in.
Riviera is the only one with resale restrictions at this point, right? Like
Disneyland Hotel too, right? Yeah, I thought Disneyland Hotel has it too.
I thought Disneyland Hotel had the same restrictions.
I will have to go back and read my contract.
I mean, it doesn't matter. The thing is, I assume, Brian, you have no intention of selling. Like,
that's the thing. Yeah,
right. So you don't really care about that. But
that's why when everyone was complaining about it, Riviera, I was like, I don't care. I'm not. If I get to a point where I'm not using it year to year, I'll rent the points so that someone else can stay
exactly.
there. Yeah,
exactly. Trevor and I. So when Trevor and I were down there together a couple years back now, and we walked through Riviera. I've not stayed at Riviera. Is one of the ones I have not stayed at yet. It's just Beach Club and Riviera, the only two that I have left. And we just walked through Riviera, and both of us were like, wow, this is really nice. Like, we need to stay here. Like,
it is a beautiful resort. I get why you like it, Brian.
Yeah. I really want to eat at Topolino's too. I've tried to get a couple reservations there, and it is very difficult to get reservations there.
It is. I will say best character breakfast on property. So
that's amazing. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to do that one of these days.
Yeah.
All right, so on to the next thing, and this actually affects cruises too, so it's good we have you here. So everybody, and Trevor, I don't remember who said this on the show, but one of us, I swear, said that this was going to happen. I don't know who it was. I initially thought it was me, but I also don't want to take any credit for anybody else's takes. But so there was a lot of hand-wringing, was a couple months ago now, when the company that makes the H2O bath products announced that they were going out of business. And so people were really concerned because, a lot of Disney fans love that H2O stuff. They, people hoard those little bottles.
I like that stuff. It's good product.
It's great. Yeah. And they have, the different scented ones that kind of match the resorts and all that stuff. Like, and that's always been a big thing. And so when it was announced that it was going to be discontinued, people were freaking out, right? Because, oh man, what's going to be replaced with? So it actually turns out that, again, this is another piece of news that came from, this is not necessarily DVC news, but it came from the condo association meeting. The vice president of resort operations said basically that Disney bought the rights to the formula for the H2O products and is now going to produce them themselves under the Disney Resorts brand. So H2O lives again. Yeah. I mean, I think it's exciting. I mean, it's funny because in our Discord, people were saying, well, they're going to try to sell this stuff in stores now. And I'm like, they could. They probably, they sell it at the parks and stores.
Yeah.
They sell it on Shop Disney, but I mean, Disney's got partnership with all the major retailers. They could probably sell it in Target if they wanted to. People would buy it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know which kind of... Go ahead. Sorry, Brian.
No, I saw this story, and my first reaction, maybe, a bit controversial, was what Disney chooses to spend money on right now is really fascinating to me. Just from the standpoint of bought the formula for some soap. These
are legendary things amongst Disney fans, though. These are I think that this tells me that they listen to fans and that they care about the guest experience.
I think they care about the guest experience when they care about the guest experience. If that makes sense.
No, but I mean, they probably could have gotten free soaps, right? They probably could have gotten a deal with Suave, and then Suave
they could
have.
They could have partnered with another company and just moved on, right?
They could have had the Coke deal, right, where they don't pay anything for the product, and they just get which may or may not be true, but I mean, I'm sure they could have done that same thing and been official supplier of soap at the Disney resorts and cruises and stuff like that, and probably gotten it really, really cheap. And instead, they bought this beloved brand and and decided to do it themselves. I don't know. I think that that's a good thing, but I get what you're saying.
I think it's a good thing. It immediately struck me that this is what we're spending the money on right now. There are other things these parks and resorts need, and we're buying soap formulas. I mean, I'm sure in the scheme of things, it's money. It's a rounding error. Yeah. But at the same time, I was just that's how it struck me. By the way, I am team H2O all the way. We used to have a full stockpile of H2O product. Now on the cruise line, right? I mean, it's like the parks and resorts. We've got the pump things and the showers. So unless you bring your own thing on, you're not taking any of it home with you. But unless you can buy it in the gift shop on board. Yeah.
Even to your point though, right? Even if they spent $10 million on this, which they probably didn't, but that's a day of popcorn sales at the Magic Kingdom, right? I mean, it's nothing to them, right? So, and for them to continue producing it, I'm sure they already have existing producers that make stuff for them. I'm sure this is they paid very little for this to continue doing this, and it probably makes sense for them to bring it in house. I mean, it's probably going to be a little bit cheaper for them, I would think, in the long run, right? But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, when I first saw the news that H2O was closing, my immediate thought was, I bet Disney canceled their contract, and that's what's shutting down this business. So apparently I was wrong there, but yeah.
They just sold it to Disney.
Basically. Yeah.
I feel like, that, Iger saying, that they're investing money into the parks. Maybe this is part of it.
This is part of the $1 billion.
This is what they
$1 billion of the $60 billion went towards shower gel.
Yeah, we got soap.
we got soap. Look at it. Listen, guys, we don't have a new land, but we got the H2O formula.
let them eat soap. Let them eat
soap. I bet they got it for a song. This company went under completely, right? So they probably got it for nothing. So.
Yeah, I don't think I saw the products anywhere else except, I mean, sure it was, but I just Disney was the only place I ever saw this stuff. So
yeah. I'll be honest. I thought, I didn't realize that it was a separate company for a long time because, like you said, I only ever saw it at Disney. So I just thought it was Disney's brand. I didn't realize that it was a separate company. Yeah. Which I mean, that says something, right? I think they made the right choice in, the company probably realized that it wasn't sustainable for them anymore and, figured why not sell it to Disney, right?
I'm just picturing the factory in some far-flung location that is making H2O gel products and Disney ketchup,
separate lines, right? Or
we hope,
right? Yeah, we hope
right next to each other.
Yeah. No, I mean, you almost have to wonder though if Disney did kind of put them out of business. I could see Disney having an exclusivity agreement with them, saying you only sell your product to us and nowhere else. Right. And when you're like that, I mean, because Disney can throw their weight around like that. And if they did that, then when the park shut down and all of a sudden their one revenue stream was completely gone, I mean, that could have been the reason why they shut down, right?
Well, and even if they had contracts with other hotels and resorts, right? I mean, during that period of time, nobody's buying stuff for the hotels and resorts. So the other thing, frankly, that can happen to a company like that is, Disney's trying to cost save. If after they reopen, they're driving down the prices with their vendors, but in kind of trying to increase volume, and this company's like, I can't build capacity to make more if you're paying me less. There's all kinds of business dynamics that could have happened here, but yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. All right, Trevor, why don't we go ahead and do our ad, and then we'll get into this. You know, it's funny because some people thought the DVC Fort Wilderness Cabins were canceled, but we've got more pictures. We got new pictures. So, and we got permits and all that stuff. So let's do our ad, and then we'll talk cabins.
Okay, this week, our sponsor is DVC Resale Market, a World of DVC company that is the leader in the DVC resale industry with 13 former Disney Vacation Club guides and 3 former Disney Vacation Club quality assurance managers. If you're thinking of buying DVC, browse the largest selection of DVC resale listings anywhere, with DVC experts on hand 7 days a week to answer your questions. If you're thinking of selling, turn to the friendly professionals at DVC Resale Market, where over 90% of listings sell within 30 days. In 2022, DVC Resale Market helped over 4,400 families join or add on to their memberships. Go to dvcresalemarket.com/welcome home or call 1-844-DVC-PROS. That's 382-7767. And when you do speak to them, be sure to let them know that Welcome Home sent you.
All right. So we have another nice piece of news from the association meeting was these renderings of what these new cabins at Fort Wilderness are going to look like. By the way, I love the logo that they came up with for this resort. This logo is awesome. It's right in the picture there.
Yeah. The you got the Disney tower in the background, and then the cabins with the tree,
and the A. Yeah, it just looks really good. Like, it's a good looking logo. I love the individual logos for some of the resorts, and I this one is just very cool to me. I don't know. I just like it.
It feels kind of like. Am I wrong in saying it's like a retro, almost feels like a 90s Disney?
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to say, I mean, I didn't know really what to expect with these cabins. I mean, I assume they're going to be prefab, right? Like, they're going to build them off-site and then just bring them in and hook them up and bingo.
I feel like looking at these renderings, I think I have seen ads for these in my news feeds on some social media as we have a lot of, what do you call it? ADUs, backyard kind of can build an additional dwelling unit. And I feel like I've seen something like this advertised to me as I put this up in your backyard as an ADU. So yes, definitely prefab.
You know what though? I like them. I'm digging the look of these. I mean, I think they look nice. I mean, they're not super Disney-fied though, right? Like they're definitely not. I thought the interesting thing, first of all, it's smart to theme them to Chippendale, right? So that's great. But I thought the interesting thing of this was, and I don't know if you guys saw this in the notes, but some of these cabins will be pet friendly, which is a first for DVC. And we've talked about this topic many times, Trevor, years ago, about them doing a pet friendly resort. And lo and behold, here we are with this is going to be the first DVC that's pet friendly. So interesting.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of a no-brainer for the cabins because they are it's already part of Fort Wilderness, and people do bring their pets to Fort Wilderness. So, not Fort, but the campsite. Sorry, I should. Yeah,
well, no, Fort Wilderness is still correct there. That's the campsites at Fort Wilderness. You're good.
But yeah, sorry, I didn't. Or I was thinking Wilderness Lodge, but the funny thing is like you said about these being prefab is immediately I was like, oh yeah, that's the same Murphy bed that they use in the Poly studios, which I'm guessing
and Riviera. And villas at Disneyland Hotel.
It's the Murphy bed now, right? It's they're just we bought 100,000 of these and just
what though? I'm here for it though, man.
It's good. It's a good bed.
In all the rooms, right?
I put one in my house.
That awful couch one. Yeah,
I put one in your house. Well, I mean, not this one. I'm waiting for them to put a QR code on the side of this thing where you can just order one. But we found a company that makes a very similar version of this, and we put one in our house in our guest room so that the guest room can be kind of a secondary living space, and then you pull the bed down. It's great. I love these beds. Yeah.
We have a Murphy bed we had one installed years ago for similar reasons as we have it in our room that my wife mainly uses it for scrapbooking, but then when we have guests we can pull down the Murphy bed, and like you said, it's fantastic. And we like the one at Disney's for the same reasons, is that it's it keeps the space very very multifunctional, which the one thing though about I guess it kind of makes sense for the cabins is I felt like the cabins had a lot of space to them, and it's do they really need the Murphy bed? But I guess the assumption is that if you're staying at one of the cabins, it's not there's not just two of you staying there, right? It's usually a larger group. So
this also too, just looking at this picture, it looks like there's bunk beds in that side room. I see a ladder. I think.
Oh yeah, I thought that was actually like
I thought that was the master, but
yeah, I was thinking for some reason that there was like a barn door there that slid out, and I thought that was part of it. But no, you're right. I think it makes more sense that that's probably bunk beds because the cabins have the bunk beds. Yeah.
Well, and it says it sleeps 6, but it also says there's a separate master. So you would think that would mean that the bunk beds wouldn't be in the master, but I don't know. I mean, listen, 6 people, I mean, they don't look huge, but they also don't look small. But I feel like 6 people would probably be a little tight in this space. I think you'd have to really like the people that you're with to be with 6 people in there. And also, by the way, they're saying projected opening summer 2024. The fact that they don't actually have any done yet, I mean, there's going to be hundreds of these. Like, that's going to be, they're going to have to put these in pretty fast.
Well, they may, I mean, to your point, they may have a lot of them built off site and just sitting and waiting to be sort of trucked in. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to do what they did with the Contemporary, except it's they're not sliding it into the frame. They're just going to drop them in and hook up the plumbing and the electrical and be done with it, right? Like that's
you're going to see videos of these on trailers on the highway in
100%
guaranteed. 100%. People are going to be like, oh, here's the cabins coming to Fort Wilderness, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They look pretty good though. I mean, if I don't like camping, and this is not camping, obviously. So this would be if I wanted to, quote unquote, rough it a little bit, then just a little bit, obviously, because this is really not that roughing it. It has air conditioning and such. At least I assume it does. But yeah, no, I would maybe check this out at some point. I've always kind of wanted to stay at Fort Wilderness. It just kind of has a vibe to it, It's a different kind of place.
Now, as I'm looking at this a little more, there's a lot of windows. Like I just noticed that like there's a lot of lighting. I hope that they're going to have, because the windows go all the way around, right? Like there's those upper windows.
Yeah.
I hope that they have blinds figured out somewhere, because like for me personally, like when I want to go to sleep at night, I want it dark. I don't want to have like any light coming in or anything. I'm wondering how they're going to do that.
Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see, right? We'll have to wait and see. All right, anything else about the cabins? Let's go. Can we talk about EPCOT? Let's talk about EPCOT.
Yeah, I'm ready to talk about EPCOT. I'm looking.
I always love talking about EPCOT.
Let's talk about EPCOT. Okay, first of all, I don't know if either one of you have looked at any of the videos, or I watched the live stream of Luminous on the first night, and I liked it. What?
You know me, I didn't.
You didn't, yeah, because you don't like spoilers, right?
And I'll be there in February. I'm not watching it ahead of time.
I really liked it. I don't like it as much as Illuminations, but I don't know if there's anything I would like as much as Illuminations. And I was also still holding out hope that drones were going to happen, but that didn't happen. But it could someday still. I appreciate the fact that they've learned the lesson of Harmonious and that they move the barges in and out every day, which is great, because as much as I liked Harmonious, I didn't love the Stargate that was sitting in the middle of World Showcase every day.
Nobody liked the Stargate.
Nobody liked the Stargate and the tacos. Nobody liked those. So, and remember initially they were like, oh, there's going to be water features all day. You're not going to notice it. And then like every time I went, there was no water features going. I don't know what was going on there, but listen, I liked it. It combined some of the elements of I've watched videos of World of Color. I've not seen it, in person, but it's almost like they took the World of Color stuff and like put it on barges and did a mini version of it. It's definitely not as big, obviously, as that, and it's much further away. You're not really that close to it. But I mean, there was some really cool fireworks things in it. There were some really cool pyrotechnic effects. The music, I think, was really well done. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I'm excited to see it in person. But I have to tell you guys, I don't know if you've seen any pictures or videos of nighttime and World Celebration.
Yes.
Man. It looks incredible. I can't wait to check that out. I've talked enough now. You guys can talk.
I did not watch any videos. What caught my attention were people who were actually saying they preferred, and I never got a chance to see it, but the prior show at EPCOT, not Illuminations, but
EPCOT Forever.
EPCOT Forever. No, the Harmonious.
Harmonious,
yeah, that they preferred Harmonious to the new show, and I was scratching my head on that because I everything I had heard about Harmonious was like, unless you're standing in just the exact spot you need to be, it's like a complete, kind of failure. And then those barges, every time we were in Epcot and saw those barges, I was like, this is just disaster.
Well, and that was the problem they solved with this new one too. Like, because the great thing about Illuminations was that you could watch it from anywhere, right? And they didn't do that with Harmonious, and I think that was a big mistake. And true, because to your point, you could really only get the full effect of that show if you were standing in front of the where the screen was on the Stargate, right? Like that was the only time you could get the full effect of the show. This show, they don't have it like that. They have made it once again like Illuminations, where you can see it from anywhere and get the full effect of it. So, which is great. And I also love too the Spaceship Earth. The lights on Spaceship Earth also interact with the show as well. So during certain parts of the show, the Spaceship Earth does things with it too, which is very cool.
Well, I thought it wasn't just Spaceship Earth, but I thought it was all the lighting.
It's all of it.
World Celebration. Yeah, it's all synced to the show, which that makes me wonder. Like, I know you watched it, Tom.
Yeah,
but
I didn't get the full effect.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking, and that's kind of my thinking around like wanting to go and see it myself in February. Is it feels like the kind of show that you don't like. You can watch video of it all you want, but until you actually see it, you don't get the full effect, right?
Yeah,
it's so. Yeah, I'm really curious to see how it's going to look in person. And the one thing I'm trying to think about now is even though you're right that they don't have the same problem that Harmonious had, where you had to be in a specific spot, but I'm wondering if it's almost more beneficial to be kind of back towards World Celebration, like not necessarily in World Showcase watching the show,
so like watching it from afar in the gardens over there.
Like I wonder if there is still going to be, or I mean there's always like a preferred spot to watch any show, but I wonder how that's going to play into this particular show.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I just saw all these pictures and videos of it at night, and it just looks so cool. They really did an amazing job with the lighting package in World Celebration, and during the day, I've seen during the day pictures too, where it's like, it's more just regular middle of the park, right? It's gardens and it's got the lights there and it's got, the Epcot logo. But at night, that whole place comes completely alive. And I mean, Trevor, I think we've talked about this in the show before. Like, I love the parks at night. Like, any of the parks at night are amazing, right? Like, just the way that they light things and all that. But this just looks like they took it to a whole nother level, especially the fact that they've synced it up with the lights on Spaceship Earth, which I've said many times in the show, and I'll say it again, is like my favorite thing they've done in a very long time, was putting those lights on there and syncing them up to music and doing those little shows that they do. I just absolutely love it. And so the fact that they also have made the lights in the front of the park go with it, as well as in World Celebration, where everything is all synced up. I mean, it's just awesome. I think it's just they did a very good job of honoring, I think, old Epcot, right? Like, and while also moving it into the future,
And they cranked the light up floor up to 100 too.
Which, I mean,
which is all I really wanted from the whole thing is, they took out those fiber optics that were in the floor on the one side there. And I'm so glad that it's back, but even bigger, right? Like,
agreed.
That's, I feel like we'll be just standing in Epcot at night, just looking around. Like, that's what you want, right?
Oh yeah, I can stand in front of Spaceship Earth and watch the lights on Spaceship Earth for like an hour easily. Just
those lights are stunning. They're really well done. We actually were friendly with an Imagineer who worked on that project before he took another job at the company, but he was explaining kind of some of the stuff behind it. It's stunning. It's just really well done. Really well done.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love all the stuff that they've done with Epcot. I'm excited. I really wish they would have kept the original, like the stuff that they had in the original concept art from a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic. I was excited for a redo of Spaceship Earth, and I'm still hopeful that they're going to do it. They have to, really. Spaceship Earth needs a redo, but then there was that really cool, like, multi-tier, like, super futuristic building that they were going to do that they scrapped. But I mean, I think what we've gotten from it is still pretty good. And I think the stage that they're building and you know all that stuff that is going to be a nice addition to the middle of the park. And I'm excited to see Moana too. Actually, I'm excited to see Journey of Water. I've actually heard from a lot of people, even like some of the more cynical Disney blogs, that it's really well done and feels very Epcot, because it's very much edutainment, which is, you know, the old school of Epcot. So yeah, anyway.
I hope if they do redo Spaceship Earth, they keep some of the original show elements, because it has been instrumental in educating my son on why Wi-Fi is not a right. So
that's funny.
Yeah, that is a good point. And yeah, I agree with you, Brian, that it's you know, it's a hard line to walk, that they could completely redo the inside of Spaceship Earth, and I'm sure it would be amazing, but then it's not Spaceship Earth anymore, right? It's kind of it's the whole thing about, you know, I forget the analogy now, but it's like, you know, if a boat keeps getting replaced board by board, is it still the original boat after every piece has been replaced? Like that's kind of the problem, right? Is that, you know, you want them to do it, but then you also, it's like, hold on, don't touch it too much, right?
I mean, I think there's certain things that, like, if you take it out, people are going to be mad, right? Like the whole Phoenicians part, like, you can't do that. Like they have that on shirts. Like, you can't take out the Phoenicians, right? Like,
what if they took out the computer room? How mad would you?
Oh, that's another thing, right? You can't take out the woman with the yellow, you know, like you can't
afro,
take her out either.
Yeah, I think they could just put a laptop in her arms and condense the whole computer room down and open up a world space for new exhibits there. So anyway,
I highly disagree with that.
Well, listen, you got to have the spinning tapes and, you know, all the blinking lights and all that. You can't take that out.
I can't explain to my kid otherwise.
It's kind of a fair point, though. Like, so if you do this to Spaceship Earth, which I tend to agree, like, let's update the ride but keep some of the original show elements, like. Or not World of Park, Carousel of Progress is the same issue, right? But no one, I don't think anyone's like, I don't know that I haven't heard a bunch of rancor in the community like that ride needs to be redone. I may not just be paying attention to it, but yeah, anyway.
I think Carousel of Progress is more low key than Spaceship Earth, because Spaceship Earth is the icon of Epcot, right? Like, and I feel like Carousel of Progress is off in the corner over there, like that weird spinning thing that some people do and some people don't. Some people go and take a nap in there, which I find disrespectful, because I love Carousel of Progress.
I mean, to be fair, it's completely gone in Disneyland now. So.
Well, yeah, that's true. But listen, I'm just saying it's one of those things that I feel is classic Disney. But you're right, though. It does need to be updated. They've done little updates here and there, but that last scene is fairly out of date at this point. They could really use a redo on that. Listen, maybe that's one of the things they have, you know, in the hopper. That and, you know, redoing Figment and redoing Spaceship Earth. Like, let's hope those are the things that they're going to do.
I just hope that they can find room in the soap budget to do these things.
I was going to say, it goes back to my comment about they chose to buy a soap formula rather than redoing some rides. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, we were going to do Spaceship Earth, but we had to buy that soap formula.
Those people made out like bandits then.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. They did, the soap formula people. Yeah. So listen, I like I said, I'm a big fan of what they've been doing with Epcot. I really feel like they've been trying to be retro with it. You know, we're not going to get back to like the like super educational stuff that they did like at the Wonders of Life Pavilion back in the day, and you know, like the Communicore stuff and all that. Like Epcot's a different park now than it was then, but you know, I like a lot of the things they've done, and I like I said, I liked Luminous, you know, but I like pretty much most of the shows I've seen at Disney. I liked Rivers of Light too, and nobody liked that show. So, but anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's, you know, it's not that there's ever been an awful show like that at Disney. I think there's just varying levels of, you know, some are better than others, but yeah.
I mean, I do want to take away, so like the educational aspects of Epcot that persist, I think are still really great. Like my son, we went on the Living with the Land, you know, boat ride, and as we're going through, he picked up on the very same thing that I picked up on when I was like, that hydroponic stuff is really, really fascinating, right? He got super interested in wanting to learn more about it. And so, yeah, I hope they don't I hope they don't retheme everything, if that makes sense. Like, I think there's value in some of this stuff. So, yeah.
Listen, if they get rid of Living with the Land, I think we all are going to riot. So,
there will be a revolt if that happens.
Yes.
Like,
no,
you just don't touch it.
you can't get rid of Living with the Land. I will personally picket that ride. I will go down there and I will tie myself to one of the plants in the ride until so they cannot take it down. Not that there's any rumors that they would ever do that. I would be surprised if they got rid of Living with the Land. That to me is Small World, right? Like that's Epcot Small World.
It's honestly one of the few attractions that they don't need to touch because it's kind of stays relevant just through the nature of what it is, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think it's interesting to think about Spaceship Earth from the standpoint of might they make a return to the old model of Epcot where you had corporate sponsorships? Because you could imagine someone like Apple turning half of that ride into like one giant advertisement for all that they've done for the world kind of thing. So,
yeah.
The back half is just talking about like, and the iPhone 4 came out this time.
Have an Apple store opened right at the base of Spaceship Earth, and plenty of people forget those cords they need.
They have a display of a potato powering an iPhone. It's like these potato clocks. That seems like a bad idea. It's weird because I feel like Disney, we talked about this before, I feel like they've been both getting away from corporate sponsorship and also leaning into it. Like they have certain things that are more sponsored, but like the rides themselves, like they've been dropping sponsorships, I feel like left and right on those. With the exception of like Splash Mountain, they had Ziploc for a little while there, right? Like that was a recent one.
Yeah.
But outside of that, like they got rid of the one on Spaceship Earth. When actually Tron is sponsored by Enterprise or something.
Oh my gosh, Enterprise is like, I've noticed their ads more and more in the parks when we've been there. So we saw it at Tron, and then we saw it at Disneyland in Radiator Springs. If you walk between Radiator Springs and Avengers Campus, there's like, bus style bench ads for Enterprise rent-a-car as you walk by.
Interesting.
I'm
they
like,
must have quite the deal with Disney.
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anything else about Epcot we want to talk about? I'm happy with all the new stuff, man. I'm pumped.
Yeah, I think I need to just wait until I go there and see it myself, and then I'll have a lot more to talk about. But I'm good.
That's fair. That's fair. I put this topic on here for you, Brian, because this is news that just came out on Friday. So Cruise Critic named Adventures by Disney and Disney Cruise Line as best for families in its river cruise category and ocean cruise categories. So. That's not surprising, I guess. They've ranked number one quite a bit, right?
I think they come in pretty consistently as number one for the family cruise line. It's usually big news if for some reason they get, a number one slot in another category. I think last year or 2 years ago, well, it could have been 2 years ago. At some point in recent memory, they got ranked like best ocean going cruise line or something like that one year, and not just for families. And so, and that's always kind of interesting, especially to us, because I'm like, does it have that kind of broad appeal? The criticism we hear most often is price and, some other things. And, to be perfectly candid, there are definitely places that Disney Cruise Line is falling behind its competitors in terms of some of its onboard offerings. But I look, not surprised to hear they're the best cruise line for families. We cruised Royal Caribbean earlier this year with my son. Now, I will say he loved it. He loved Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. I hated it. Didn't hate it. I did not enjoy it as much as he did. Yeah, we're giving it another go here this year for his spring break, just because the pricing on Disney Cruise Line is getting so out of control. We could sail the same week in a similar category of stateroom on Royal Caribbean for half the price that we were going to be able to sail on the Fantasy. It wasn't even on the Wish or the Treasure. And so we're going to give him one more try, but he loved it. He loved all the activities on the private island. He loved the fact that they had an arcade on board, which Disney Cruise Line doesn't. He actually preferred the kids club because it had a lot more kind of structured activity as opposed to kind of chaos with structured activity. So he really loved it. So, I think that's their main competition in this family cruise line category, but those kids clubs on Disney Cruise Line are hard to beat. So, yeah.
Okay. Well, and Adventures by Disney up there too. So you're about to do an Adventures by Disney. So
we have heard nothing. I mean, amazing things. So we've had several guests on our show who've done Adventures by Disney. I think listening to someone talk about a river cruise is what got us to book the cruise that we're going on. And we've heard nothing but amazing things about the Adventures by Disney experience for families. I think the differentiator is that, so like for river cruising, for example, they contract with another cruise line company called AMA Waterways in Europe, which is a fairly kind of higher end river cruising brand on par with like a Viking Cruise Lines there in Europe. And, but they have ships that were specially built for the partnership. And so on a lot of river cruise lines, a room will sleep a max of 2 people. And that doesn't really work, if you're a family. And so on the river cruise boats that Disney is partnering with AMA around, they have rooms that will sleep 3, right? Which is huge if you're a family of 3, not having to buy 2 rooms on a river cruise as opposed to just 1, right? It certainly helps things out. And then the other thing they do, right, is, river cruising or even adventure vacations where you're on land, like, it's a lot of like walking around and seeing sights and going to museums, which is stuff that the adults are really interested in doing, or, wine tastings. It's a lot of stuff, seeing sights that, kids are going to be like, this is like so boring. Right. And what they do with the adventure guides is the adventure guides will peel the kids off from the adults and go do some like scavenger hunt activity at the museum, or, hey, while the adults are wine tasting, let's go do this arts and crafts project over here. Right. Kind of thing. And so it's that sort of like built in, like, they don't have a kids club, but they sort of make their own kids club wherever they are and try to keep things interesting for the kids. And from everything we've heard too, like the adventure guides are, they're equivalent of like a Plaid in the park. I mean, they will do just about anything for you. People have said they have their Mary Poppins bag with them all the time. And like, oh, you need something? Like, I've got it right here. I've got 10 of those. How many do you need, kind of thing? And so, the consequence is you're definitely paying for the experience. You can definitely visit Europe on even a guided tour for a lot less than paying for Adventures by Disney. You can definitely go on a river cruise for less than paying Adventures by Disney. But, if you're traveling, like our son is 10, I think we've made a good decision here, because I think if I just took him on a regular tour without an adventure guide, I'm not sure he'd have a lot of fun. So yeah, but we will find out. We will find out.
Yeah, we'll look forward to listening to that. That'll be good.
I'll be honest. I'm kind of in the camp that I would rather be doing a lot of the kids stuff. Like an Adventure by Disney sounds fun, because I would be in it with my son, like my son's a little bit older than yours, but like, I want to go do the fun stuff. I don't want to do a wine tasting. I want to go do the scavenger hunt.
I don't want to do the museum either. I'm not a museum guy.
Although I will say, we have heard through the grapevine that there might be kind of a Adventures by Disney may be kind of reducing its offering a little bit here in the near future, just, kind of culling out the adventures that haven't been as popular traditionally. I don't know what that means, but I don't know what that means for the future, but they're still going to be offering them. I have a suspicion that what's really going on is they do a lot of adventures here in the US, like go to a cowboy ranch in Montana, or they have a couple of different ones here in the US. The popular one is the one you can do out on the West Coast, where you go to Disneyland and, you get a behind the scenes Imagineering tour of the whole, park. And actually, I think they spend some time in San Francisco and elsewhere. But anyway, there's a West Coast tour that's really popular. I have a feeling some of the other US based tours are far less popular as compared to Americans with families who are looking to travel to, say, Egypt or China, or someplace like that, where planning the vacation is difficult. Making sure your kids are going to have a good time might be harder, where people kind of lean into that. I'll pay the premium to have Disney do that for me. So
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, that's where it makes sense to me, because I don't want to necessarily like try and figure all that out. Whereas, like you said, traveling in North America is like, I know where I can go to, do like a ski trip, or to, like you said, go to a ranch in Montana or whatever. It's, that's easy. But yeah, if I wanted to go to Egypt, I would personally rather, let Disney figure it out for me if they offered something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So one of the other things on here, and I'm impressed by this, by the way, do they always, I'm trying to remember if they've done this in the past or if this is a new thing, but Disneyland has just kind of come out and like given you all of their events for the year and the dates. Like, I feel like this is surprising to me, I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they do this every year. I don't remember them doing it before.
These have always been, or I shouldn't say always, these have been a thing for a long time.
It's just the date. I feel like they usually don't announce the dates ahead of time this far.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing like a clear calendar of like when all of these things start. But I guess it's just kind of, or I guess the way I approach is, whenever we happen to show up at the parks, we just go with whatever's going on, right?
Yeah, you don't make special trips to go to Season of the Force for the Star Wars thing or Pixar Fest. Like, you're not making a special trip for that. Maybe for Christmas or for Halloween, but
I wonder if this is a constant. So I will say two things about this. One is we go to Disneyland quite a bit. So California Adventure is basically turning into EPCOT from a festival point of view, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, the breaks between festivals are getting shorter and shorter, and I'm waiting for them to add in a few more, so it kind of becomes a year-round thing, almost like they have at EPCOT, where the short breaks in between. But I also looked at this and I went, I bet they're doing this to try and attract more people from outside of the local area to come to Disneyland, like plan a vacation here because we have these events going. Yeah. Because I don't think a lot of people who don't visit Disneyland regularly know about some of this stuff that happens every year at about the same time. And, would they be swayed? Like, would they be swayed to come to Food and Wine Festival at Disney, which, something we kind of plan around now. We're like, oh, we definitely want to make sure we hit up Food and Wine because it's also typically the time of year they bring back the original Soarin' ride to Disneyland. And so I think knowing this stuff is out there is fantastic because I think it enables people to say, like, I'd actually like to see that. And now I know when it starts and when it ends and when I need to be there to do it. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like that they do it because we kind of been noticing lately that they've been, I don't want to say they've been scheduling things last minute, but they've been at least announcing them not that far in advance, right? Like, and maybe that's just a function of them getting it back together after still trying to get back to full operational, excellence that they had before the pandemic. But I mean, it's just interesting to have all of these dates way ahead of time like this, so you can know that the holidays start at Disneyland at November 15th, and they have this Coco thing from August 23rd to November 2nd, and Halloween, August 23rd to October 31st. I mean, like, we don't know these dates for Disney World yet, right? Like, those, they haven't announced any of that for Disney World. So the fact that they're this far out ahead of it is pretty amazing, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. I wish they would do this for cruise line, if I'm totally honest, because right now, Disney's only about 18 months out with its cruises, and other cruise lines go 2, maybe even 3 years out, depending on the cruise line with their itineraries. But the other thing Disney does is you'll book a cruise, and then 6 months later, you'll find out, oh, it's a Marvel day at sea, or, a Pixar day at sea, or it is going to be very maritime. Like, you kind of know if you cruise enough when that stuff starts, and so can plan accordingly. But they don't label the cruises up front with some of these special experiences. And I think it would change people's, it might change people's behavior. They may book a different cruise because they really want to experience a Marvel day at sea. And they just don't know going in if that's the right cruise to be on for it. So anyway.
That makes sense. Yeah.
I feel like that's a bit of a double-edged sword too, right? Like I agree that, knowing all of these things further ahead is great for those of us that, are planning a year out or further. But I can also see where Disney doesn't necessarily always want to be that specific about things that are going on because, it's like Moonlight Magic events, right? Like when those get announced, some people do specifically plan around those, but like for me, it would be like, am I going to shift an entire trip just because of a particular event? And again, that's just specifically talking about like, going to Disney World. And because of the fact that it, like for me, it is an international trip because I'm coming from Canada and it is a lot more expensive. I have to wonder if Disney doesn't necessarily want to force that kind of demand on because that's what happens, right? Is, if they force it, great, they've got rooms booked up, they've got people booked in for things, but it does actually kind of detract from the overall experience for some people because, not everybody is looking necessarily, 18 months out. And sorry, I'm speaking specifically from a Disney World kind of view. I get what you're saying, Brian, that, for something like a cruise, if you're planning that far out, you definitely do want to know these things because you're locked in already like 18 months out that you're going to do a cruise, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So I get that, but I can also see why, like, for something like I can see why for Disney World that they don't necessarily want to do that the same way that they're doing it here at Disneyland.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying. It's, you could, and you end up too with like Moonlight Magic, then all of a sudden a whole bunch of people will book during that time, that maybe weren't booked before. You end up with a glut of, people because some people do schedule around Moonlight Magic. I do not. It's kind of like what you were saying before. It's like, if I'm there, I'm there. If I'm not, I'm not.
Yeah. And then there's the other side of it is people are frustrated because they're like, well, I wanted to go this week, not even knowing that Moonlight Magic is going on. And they're like, I can't find our room in the place that I want because, all these other people were in there, a year and a half before. And that kind of goes back to like the pre-pandemic thing that we kept hearing about, like fast passes and stuff that, a lot of people were frustrated that it was like, you had to like solidify plans at Disney World, like even fast passes, like 2 months out, and then hope that nothing happened, that you had to like break your plans because you do spend way too much time planning ahead, right? Like it's, like I said, it is a bit of a double-edged sword. It's good that they're giving like this high level stuff at Disneyland, but I don't know if it would work as well at Disney World.
I agree. Yeah.
I'd say it this way. I just wish that Disney would be a little more predictable, maybe the wrong word, because I think they are predictable. But if you don't know that, right, if you haven't been enough, you don't know the predictability.
Time.
Yeah. Like you get caught off guard by it. You're like, but I wanted to do that thing, and now I can't do that thing. And, so, I wish it would be a little bit more predictable, like release dates for things consistently, that sort of stuff. So,
Yeah, it's sometimes. I know they kind of operate this way, but it almost feels like Disneyland and Disney World are like not from the same company, right? Like they do things they do things differently, and it's almost like they're not under the same umbrella. And listen, you to a certain extent you have to do things differently, right? Because Disneyland's a whole different beast than Disney World, right? There's different customer set, there's a lot of different stuff there, right? So like you do have to cater more to a different audience there, but and also just the size of it is different too. Operating Disney World is operating a city, right? So it's a whole different kind of scenario. But so it's funny how these things are different sometimes between the two parks, where Disneyland's coming out here and announcing all their dates, and like we know nothing about what's happening in Disney World at any time this next year, right? Except for maybe Festival of the Arts, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think we know Festival of the Arts and Start of Food and Wine.
I apologize, farts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Brian, I call Festival of the Arts farts. I put it in our show notes when we talked about it the last time, Trevor, and I don't think anyone noticed because no one mentioned it. I called it farts in the show notes. I'm really
there's a merch opportunity for you there, Tom. So
right? Yeah, we need to get something in the store for yeah, that's a great idea.
Disney farts, yeah. Disney
but then you like put in really small letters next to the F. You put festival.
Right. Yeah, right. Very tiny writing.
Yeah, just very tiny writing. Yeah, it's as small as you can get it. Yeah. So immature. Anyway. So Damon talked about this on Damon's little mini show that he's doing. But so I just wanted to briefly talk about it and then we can wrap this up. Unless there's anything else you guys want to talk about, if there's any news items that I missed of the week. But I just wanted to mention, so as it's funny because I thought these Storyliving communities were one of those things that Disney was going to announce and just like not do. You know what I mean? Like it was just like a cool concept idea and they actually weren't going to execute on it. But this stuff seems like it's actually happening. And so they have their Storyliving community opening, that they're building now in California. And now they're going to be doing one in my state of North Carolina, actually right down the road from Damon. So Damon's very excited about this. He's already been trying to get me to go in with him on a place, even though they haven't even started building yet. So it's like, we can split it, we'll just split it. But I'm excited that they're doing this kind of stuff. Whether I will buy a place here, I don't know, but I will certainly look into it when it does come to fruition. And it looks like it's going to be in a really cool area, and I'm sure they're going to give us more details about it as we go here. But it is interesting that they've done, they're doing California and they're doing here in North Carolina. So it'd be interesting to see where they do these things next. Funny that they're not doing it in Florida, but I guess they don't really need to do it in Florida. I don't know. You wouldn't think they need to do it in California either, but I'm rambling now.
they have done it in Florida. It was called Celebration, right?
And they also have Golden Oak.
Isn't Celebration already a thing? Yeah,
they did. You're right, but Celebration was kind of a failure. I mean, right? It's not.
But that's what I worry about, because when I saw this get announced, my two immediate thoughts were, again, really, this is what we're doing. But okay. But two, you did this with Celebration, and they sold it, right? I mean, they basically sold it off, right? And I'm looking at these going, are they going to end up having to do the same thing? They're going to build out kind of the skeletal structure for this community and get some things off the ground, and then they're going to realize we're not really a company that's in the business of doing outside of timeshare real estate. Right. And so we need to let this go and sell it off. I don't know enough about this that maybe these are actually being managed by a different company, that sort of thing. And I'd be curious, has anyone said anything about pricing for this stuff? Is this Golden Oaks, or is this something?
It's a good question. It's a good question, because if it's Golden Oaks, I don't know what the floor is at Golden Oaks, but I mean, at one point it was 1.2 or 1.4 million. I actually laughed because they sent me an invite one time, and I was like, how do you think I have this much money, Disney? Just because I come here a lot and spend money, you think that I'm gonna be interested? But no, they really haven't said, right? So the 4,000 units at this one, but I don't think they've given a range. So I don't know.
You kind of hit on something there, Brian, that, as I've said previously, that I'm always kind of thinking way far ahead on these things. And so I equate how these storybook places are going to eventually come to be is, so here we have, so I live in Canada, and we have some communities where they'll build a private lake and community center and all that, and it's managed by a homeowners association. But what happens is that the builder will build it, and they'll run it for the first 5 to 10 years after the community is built. And it's written into the contract when you join into the community association that it's it's going to be run by this company, and then they, exactly what you're talking about, they do sell it off to another company that kind of becomes the long-term homeowner association. And the thing about that is that it is a bit of a mixed bag as to how it actually plays out, because some of the communities, it's been the people who took it over, they're still maintaining it. It's a really nice community. And I'm living in a community that's been like this now we've been here for 20 years. And it's fine that we don't have any issues, but I know there's other communities where they have had issues with how the association spends the money and this kind of stuff. And the problem that I think about is that, a lot of people are going to be leveraging the fact that this is a Disney community. And again, once you get past the initial, Disney is running this, and then when Disney hands it off to another partner down the line, are you going to have somebody that's well, but this is a Disney community. Yeah, I know we don't spend any money on this, or we haven't maintained this, but it's a Disney community, right? It seems like it could be a bit of a trap in the long term to buy into one of these things. I mean, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but it is a bit of a gamble that, I don't know, I would want to take something like that on moving into a community like this, right?
You could end up with some brand damage, to your point. You could.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, by the way, I clicked on the link for Cotino for the one in California, and it does say upper 1 millions to lower 2 millions.
Is that all?
Yeah, that's all. But I also want to note too, it says pre-sale appointments for the initial home release are now full. So not only are they $1 million homes, but they have high demand already.
Well, and I would say this, in the California housing market, that doesn't surprise me. I'd be curious what it looks like in North Carolina, right? I know North Carolina's got a robust market, but I'd be curious if that price point comes down there. And I guess, Trevor, you hit on something there that I think is super important for me. I look at this and I go, okay, so Golden Oaks has a value proposition around it, right? Like you're on Disney property, you get perks at Disney, right? Like all of that sort of stuff. So it's really about like, I want to go live at Disney. This is like, what is the difference between living in one of these communities and say like the Villages in Florida or a similar kind of retirement? Like what is the quote unquote Disney difference? What's going to make it different and compelling? Because it feels like, you know, oh, well, we're going to have world-class food. Well, so are all these other communities, right? What is the thing that's going to cause me to live here as opposed to someplace else? Because I guarantee there is going to be a premium because the Disney brand is attached to it. And so that's what makes me worry, and makes me worry more that, to your point, like 5-10 years down the line, the thing gets sold and you're basically just living in an overinflated, you know, price point home that you could have gotten into a different community that had all the same amenities and just didn't have Disney attached to it. So, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we wrap this up? So, Brian, do you want to plug your show a little bit more, so where people can find you? And, thanks again, by the way, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Oh, no.
Talk
Thanks
to you again.
so much.
It's been a while. Yeah.
I should have said it up front. Thank you for having me on. So you can find my wife and I were the DCL Duo. You can find us anywhere that you listen to podcasts. We have a small but growing YouTube channel at youtube.com/DCL Duo. And we're on social media everywhere except Instagram as DCL Duo, all run together. But on Instagram, someone had that name. If you're listening to the show, please reach out because I'm trying to get that name. But we are DCL_Duo on Instagram. But that's how you can find us. And we could put out 2 shows a week, sometimes 3. This upcoming week, we got 3 shows coming out, all about Disney Cruise Line with occasional forays into Adventures by Disney and comparing other cruise lines to Disney Cruise Line. So, yeah, head on over if you want some tips on Disney Cruise Line.
Yeah, definitely. You guys do a really well produced show. So that's check them out if you want to learn about DCL, because they're the place to go for sure. So.
Well, and thank you for saying that. You are definitely one of the shows I listen to for my parks news and my DVC news. So yes, unfortunately, we're not buying any more DVC. I think I said up front we have
you're maxed out.
We have over 1,000 points of DVC at this point. So we are on hold for any future DVC purchases.
You're good.
That's a lot. That's a lot of points.
It is. We bought a little too much at Riviera in the beginning. So yeah,
you went a little. Those incentives were a little too good. All right. So Trevor, you want to wrap us up here?
Yeah, for sure. So as usual, you can always find us at welcomehomepodcast@gmail.com. We love getting your, you share your trip reports with us. We love getting questions from you guys. So you can always reach out to us there. If you want to follow us on social media, you can find us on Facebook as Welcome Home Podcast. You can find us on YouTube also as Welcome Home Podcast. And you can find us on Instagram as Welcome Home Pics. On Facebook, make sure you check out our group called Welcome Home Disney Waitlist. It's a great place to go and talk about Disney with other people who listen to the show and, see all the memes and fun stuff that goes on in the group. And if you'd like to help support the show, you can go to store.welcomehomepodcast.com and check out our different merch there. We do still have the golden birthday button or the golden, I should stop calling it the golden birthday button. I keep doing that. I blame Damon for that because that's what it's the golden button shirt, but it's only in the store until the 15th. So you've got till the end of this week from when this podcast comes out to go get it if you want your own limited edition shirt. Outside of that, if you would like to support us through Patreon, you go to patreon.com/welcomehomepod and check out our different levels of Patreon support that has an exclusive logo that only our Patreon listeners get. And all the people who support us on Patreon do get access to the Discord server, like we talked about earlier, which is just another place that we have great talks about things on the show and just general Disney discussion. So if that's of interest to you, please come check us out. And last but not least, if you're listening on iTunes or Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. It does help more people find the podcast. And we like seeing stars. They're just shiny. And, why wouldn't you?
It makes me happy.
It makes Tom happy. So, make sure you listen to, make sure you give us those 5-star reviews. And if you do happen to be on iTunes, you can write us a review. We do love reading those reviews. We do read them out on the show here. So, please let us know what you think about the show.
I got a couple of shout outs here, Trevor, before we finish up. So I want to start doing a meme of the week because I feel like the meme game has been good lately. And I have to say, Jeremy's meme of my daughter, and Legoland and Peppa Pig Land, did that meme with the guy looking. I don't know. Does that meme have a name? I don't know. It's the guy that's walking down the street and looking at the other woman and
his girlfriend's
it's disgusted. Yeah. So Jeremy knocked it out of the park with that one. Nice work. I do also want to read 2 emails we got. So we got an email from Logan, who is 11. And said, I love listening to your show, and I think you're one of the best Disney podcasts out there. Y'all are so funny and bring the magic of Disney alive. I always enjoy starting off my week by listening to your podcast on the way to school. I wish this podcast had a new episode every day, but that would be hard and would burn the anticipation. And it would be hard. Yeah, that would be tough. But, Logan's also wants to be on the show at some point, and maybe we can make that happen, Logan. And Logan said, I would be happy to help. I have lots of knowledge about the parks and know lots of good secrets. Did you know the original MGM Studios was on a massive hidden Mickey from above? I did know that, and it is one of my favorite fun facts. So thank you, Logan.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Logan. That really touches my heart that you wrote that.
Oh, and also Logan says, again, I love the podcast and I hope you keep up the good work. And P.S. I'm team food. Thank you, Logan. So many people are team food. Damon's out of his mind. And then the other one I wanted to just, shout out is to Anna or Anna. I apologize if I said your name wrong, but, she just wanted to email us to tell us how excited she was that she got her reservation for Moonlight Magic. So congratulations to you, Anna.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So happy for you.
Great news. Great news. I hope you enjoy it. Should be a fun time. So definitely let us know how that one goes. So so I just wanted to read those couple ones out. I was a little bit behind on emails because the past couple weeks have been a little crazy. So but yeah, thank you guys so much for writing into us. We really appreciate it. We also appreciate the reviews too when you do reviews. So and also, the other thing we appreciate is for subscribing to Welcome Home Podcast. So please do that so you can be reminded every time we release a new episode. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube Music. Just about any place you can find podcasts, you can find us. Just a reminder to our listeners, Welcome Home Podcast is for entertainment only. We are not employed by the Walt Disney Company. As such, all opinions we expressed on the show are our own. So please consult a DVC representative or Disney cast member for more information about anything we talked about today. Huge thank you to our sponsor of this episode, DVC Resale Market, and World of DVC for continuing to be huge supporters of this show. Please check them out for all your DVC needs. And of course, please check out DCL Duo for all your DCL needs. That's an important thing as well. I think, Brian, you guys have a Facebook group too. So, right, around DCL? Yeah.
Yep, you can find it.
Your Facebook group, yeah.
Yeah, Facebook group is DCL Duo. It's either podcast and vlog or vlog and podcast, but we've got just an open Facebook group that you can come join, and lots of great tips and tricks get shared in there by our various listeners and us.
Awesome. Join us next time for more Disney Parks discussion. Of course, more DVC talk. We hope to see you all real soon.
This is Skipper Albert Awol, the voice of the jungle, signing off from Welcome Home Podcast on the DVC.
Do a huddle when we hit a chair. How she can cuddle is no man's affair. I looked around from pole to pole, found her in a sugar bowl.